For the second time today, we're about to welcome Formula 3 cars to the Guia Circuit here at Macau. And this time it's competitive, the first competitive session out on circuit today. Free practice all the way so far today. But now we are about to enjoy our first qualifying session. They have two qualifying sessions which will form up the grid for our qualification race on Saturday. And today it's going to be over 40 minutes for qualifying one for the second time today that we see Formula 3 cars for the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix and the FIA F3 World Cup. Cars down in pit lane, single-seaters about to take to the circuit with rookies and former double winners as well. That is Dan Ticktum. He's won this race twice. And that is the car and the driver that went to the top of the times this morning in free practice one. Gabriel Mini in the Theodore Racing Prema run car. And Gabriel Mini, very impressive this morning. Dan Ticktum, in fact, actually only ending up in 8th place this morning. David Addison is alongside me here in the commentary box. So our first competitive action of the day.
This is going to be an absolute stormer, isn't it? Because whatever they learnt this morning in free practice, now they've got to put into use. And what they don't know is what it's going to do tomorrow, whether it's going to be dry, and if it is, whether it's going to be hotter or cooler. And potentially if it's any hotter, because actually today is quite overcast, it might end up being the slower session. So it could be that this is the one that determines the grid. Either way, you've got to get a banker lap in. You've got to do well in this, just in case. There's another driver that's won here before, Richard Verschoor, the Dutch driver. All of these cars are the same, of course. They are the Dallara F3 2019 with a Mechachrome 3.4 litre engine, and with 9 teams represented across the grid. We've got some new faces to Macau, some old faces to Macau, and some new faces to Formula 3 machinery as well. So it's a fascinating entry, and a 40-minute qualifying session means that this is going to be very competitive indeed. Gabriele Mini was the fastest by 0.4 of a second this morning from a really inspired Luke Browning. He did a great job, and then it was Richard Verschoor who rounded out the top three. And the 6-kilometre-long circuit welcomes the Trident Motorsport trio, Richard Verschoor, Roman Stanek and Ugo Ugachukwu. Jensen Motorsport ran Max Esterson, Charlie Wurtz and Matthias Zagazzetta, and they were fined this morning, Jensen, for a refuelling infringement. From SJM Theodore Prema Racing, you've got Gabriele Mini, Dino Beganovic and Paul Aaron. High-Tech Pulse 8 run Luke Browning, Isaac Hajar and Alex Dunn. Campos Racing also fined this morning for a refuelling infringement. Operate Pepe Marti, Sebastian Montoya and Oliver Goethe. Van Amersfoort have Noah Leon, Sophia Flörsch and Tommy Smith. ART Grand Prix run Lawrence Van Huppen, who crashed in FP1 and caused a red flag. Christian Mansell and Nikola Solov, the Bulgarian. And then Road in Carlin have got just the two, Zane Maloney and Dan Ticktum. And at MP Motorsport, you've got Dennis Hauger, who was a late replacement for Franco Colapinto, Mari Boyer and Marcus Armstrong, returning from seasons stateside to come back to Macau. He reckons that's unfinished business. So then, we've got 40 minutes in prospect, and I would imagine that the drivers will do 2 runs, 2 sets of tyres, but of course there is a tyre limitation for the weekend. So they don't want to be rattling through the tyres and doing more laps than necessary. It might be that some bide their time and let others go out and put a bit of rubber down, and then they know what they're aiming at.
That's the eyes of Dan Ticktum, double winner here at Macau. You've got to be a pretty special driver to win the Macau Grand Prix here at Macau. To do it twice is exceptional. To win it 3 times, well, it's unheard of. And that's what Dan Ticktum is here to do.
It is indeed the most recent Formula E race. That's what he's been in of late. Number 12 there is Isaac Hadjar, and you can see how busy it has got over the course of the day here at Macau. And the fans in the grandstands finding themselves on the big screens and looking forward to the session. You just saw Isaac Hadjar's car. He's had a year of Formula 2, but coming back into Formula 3 because, of course, this is the first time these cars have been eligible for the Macau Grand Prix since 2019. So potentially there's a whole generations may be too strong, but a whole wave of drivers that would miss out, and that's why some are quite prepared to go back from F2 to F3 so they can race here.
This is only day one. Look at the crowds in the grandstand. It's
really
Thursday,
busy, isn't it? Yeah.
Local time here, just coming up to 3:15 in the afternoon. But this is the first time we've gone competitive over the course of this weekend. And the crowds here at Macau continue to gather. We were lucky this morning. We went into the grandstand for the motorbikes. That was at the start of the day. Now we're into competition because the green flag is waved. Formula 3 cars head down the pit lane, and we are underway for 40 minutes of qualifying one. Now, it's not all about this qualifying session. We have qualifying 2 coming up tomorrow. So if this doesn't go completely according to plan, it's a combined qualifying Q1 and Q2, and that will line up the grid for the qualification race on Saturday, and that in turn, the result of that will line up the grid for the Grand Prix on Sunday.
Yeah, you take your better time out of those 2 sessions, like the good old days of qualifying sessions on different days, and I still maintain this could well turn out to be the quicker one, so I think everyone is going to go and really try for a banker in this, and then they'll wait and see what pans out tomorrow, because tomorrow's session is going to be a similar time of day, 10 minutes earlier tomorrow afternoon, but if it's a warmer day tomorrow, then by afternoon it will be very, very hot, and that might have the counter effect of letting the cars go quickly. So probably half have gone out, half have stayed in. Looking down into the pit lane, there are some still biding their time. You can see Sophia Flörsch and Tommy Smith, for example, have yet to go, and the Prema cars also are still all lined up, ready to venture out.
Is that a problem with Sophia's car? I think it might be.
Might be. There's a little bit of a tension. I'm looking out of the window as you're looking at the pictures, yeah.
The faces on the team look a bit puzzled and worried about this. Sophia Flörsch remaining down in pit lane at the moment.
Something on the steering wheel, possibly, that's not going through the processes of perhaps firing up the car or giving the readout that they want. So in fairness, I don't think they were going out anyway. Tommy Smith's sister car hasn't gone out either, but they are, as you say, happily trying to get to the end of that problem, and then they can dispatch the car. Now Prema are going out, having effectively given themselves half a clear lap.
The important thing to do, there are plenty of cars here for the grid for the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix, the return of Formula 3 after 3 years with Formula 4 cars being the headline act competing for the Macau Grand Prix, and with the return of Formula 3 cars, this Formula 3 car, this current Formula 3 car with the halo and with the DRS available to be activated. It's only the 2nd time these cars have competed here on the Guia Circuit.
Yeah.
And it's a very welcome return, isn't it?
I mean, what are we looking at? 380 brake horsepower. You know, these are very big engines compared to the old 2-litre Formula 3 days. 40 years since the first Macau Grand Prix ran for a Formula 3 car, and how Formula 3 has evolved. These effectively the normally aspirated version of the same engine in a Formula 2 car. There's a great noise as well.
Great noise. It was nice. We've talked over the course of today in the commentary about a visit to the Macau Grand Prix Museum, and to be reacquainted with Formula 3 cars of the 1990s was like seeing an old friend again, with a little air intake on the side, and it was like seeing an old friend.
Even the WSR 1983 SSN Roll is another sort of old friend, because that was just the Formula 3 car to have. In those days, it wasn't de rigueur to have Formula 3 as a single chassis category like it is now under the regulations. It's just that the Ralt RT3 was so good, and Ralt dominated Formula 3 really up until 1993 when Dallara came along, and these are Dallara chassis. As now the first flying lap is undertaken, and you've got Murray Boyer, 28, Marcus Armstrong in 29 out of the MP Motorsport stable, the Dutch team, hence the orange colours. Dennis Hager behind them, the Norwegian driver. But now we'll start to piece together good sectors, and for Trident, Roman Stanek has done an absolute best in Sector 1. He's been racing in Formula 2 this year for the Trident team, and he was 19th in that championship, whereas, so he's stepping back into Formula 3. Others like Uga Chukwu are having their F3 debut, and what a place to make it!
It's not bad, is it? We'll drive one of these cars for the first time. Let's do it around the Guia Circuit at Macau. That's a great idea. Luke Browning has gone overall quickest in the 2nd sector. So Luke Browning, very much one to watch, a very impressive young driver, 21 years of age, also having been voted a couple of years ago the Aston Martin Autosport BRDC Young Driver of the Year, which is a hugely prestigious thing to be awarded. It's all announced at the Autosport Awards, and a very lavish environment of the Grosvenor Hotel in London, and always a young driver can be incredibly proud of putting that on his CV. It's always one to watch, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty rigorous process of tests over a couple of days, and a rigorous judging panel that assess not just how well they did on track, but in interview sessions and how good they are at working with engineers. And a lot of drivers have come out of those young driver tests to form links with teams or manufacturers. We're about to get a target time offered up. The best this morning, Gabriele Mini, was a 2:06, so that's kind of where we need to be aiming for, maybe a 2:05 if they really get things up to temperature. And Marie Boyer is on a sedate first lap, 2:27, so now they're building up, getting warmth into the rubber all the time.
First flying lap, and it's Marcus Armstrong that currently is top of the times, 2:27.312, and it's a second visit, I think, maybe a third visit for Marcus Armstrong, car number 29. Either way, top of the times on the strength of the first lap. First flying lap, Australian driver. Let's see who's going to put in the quickest of the sectors on this second flying lap. Dennis Hauger has put in the overall best on sector 1.
He has indeed. So Marcus Armstrong then, the Kiwi, third visit here, is the...
Did I make him Australian?
Briefly.
I do beg your pardon.
Same part of the world, isn't it?
That's the worst thing to do, isn't it?
But he is currently the fastest, but everybody's got more time to offer up before the end here. We had a red flag this morning, I think I mentioned, from Lawrence van Huppen, who head-butted the tyres down at Lisboa. So we need to keep an eye on him to see what progression can be made. By the end of it, Van Huppen was the slowest, although he's another rookie to Formula 3.
Dennis Hauger is going well. Overall best in sector 1. He was also briefly overall best in sector 3. Red flag.
And that's why. Big crash at Lisboa. And that's Sebastian Montoya in the wall. Sebastian Montoya off at Lisboa. Exactly in terms of the damage, what Van Huppen did this morning.
I said at the end of free practice 1 this morning for Formula 3 cars, we hadn't mentioned Sebastian Montoya. We have done now, and not for the right reasons. That's very disappointing.
And look, all self-induced, too much speed into the corner, and that was quite a big stop. Look at the way the wheels at the back are lifted off the ground. In he goes very hard and far too quickly.
And that's going to be a bit disappointing for Luke Browning as well, because he was on a good lap. He put in the overall best in sectors 2 and 3, personal best on sector 1. So for Sebastian Montoya's car, which is trying to pull itself out of the tyres down there. Have you any idea, David, how many ratchet straps hold those tyres together to make it an immovable force? Because funny enough, when I went on the track walk the other day, I watched them doing it, and they were putting in double the amount of ratchet straps that were already in place.
Really?
So that's not going anywhere.
No, indeed. So Montoya trying to dig the car out, but it's a fool's errand in a way, because, as you say, it's not moving. And now, because this is a qualifying session, so the clock has stopped. So it means that now everybody will come to the pit lane, and they will go again in a few moments' time. But first of all, the road has got to be clear of errant cars, and then we will be back in business. So it's down at Lisboa at turn 3 where we've had this interruption. Bad news for Luke Browning, because he just put together a lap with 2 absolute best sectors, but of course the lap is for nothing, because you all come back to the pit lane now.
Yep, and so as cars enter the pit lane, we've got all of that work to do. Again, once we've got Sebastian Montoya's car, is this going to be elegant or not so elegant? Because the nose cone is still wedged into the tyre wall. No, that's not too bad. Obviously, there'll be the requirement for a new front wing.
But that has just ruined his weekend, because either way, if this is the quicker session, he's going to have to rely purely on tomorrow. At the moment, a 2:44 is barely a lap time. So the chances are, depending on what happens tomorrow, that could well be the car that's last on the grid. And so tomorrow, he's now going to give up, 33 minutes of track time in this. Free practice tomorrow, they've got to try and get the car dial back in, and then the pressure's going to be on in qualifying tomorrow.
It's very often, first time at Macau, a learning experience, isn't it? And lessons are learnt hard here at Macau. The greats have crashed in the past and gone on to do amazing things, like winning Formula One World Championships, but certainly that is not the best way to start the weekend once competition has got underway. Charlie Wirtz is top of the times after just one flying lap, 2:27.167. Just 17 years old is Charlie Wirtz in car number 6.
Number 1, Richard Verschoor, who's won the event before, joined by Roman Stanek and Uga Chukwu at Trident. 23 there is Nikola Solov, who comes after winning the Spanish Formula 4 championship last year, and in FIA Formula 3 this year, a 7th and 3 11th places, so it was a modest year.
Uga Chukwu was somebody that impressed massively. 15:27, that's just a couple of minutes away to get the session back on the way. Uga Chukwu was a driver, he's part of Zak Brown's McLaren outfit supported drivers, to the extent that I've seen it for myself when he was doing Formula 4. Zak Brown, Ugo won his first race, and Zak Brown was in front of the podium filming the podium presentation on his phone. So that's the kind of support you get from Zak. It's very much a friendly arm around the shoulder when you're a young driver. But Ugo has grown. He's grown so much. He's tall, very, very tall for a single-seater driver. Well over 6 foot tall now is Ugo.
Wow, which is not ideal for single-seater racing.
You sort of fold yourself into the cockpit, don't you?
Another great livery you'll find is on Max Esterson's car. We'll see if the cameras can pick that up as it's in the pit lane at the moment. But drivers are getting ready because the session is going to restart in about half 8 minutes' time. Gabriele Mini for the Prema Run Theodore team is good to go. Sophia Flörsch looking a little bit happier about life in that BVT liveried and sponsored car that Fritz van Amersfoort's team operates.
A brand new helmet design was unveiled yesterday by Sophia for this weekend. Very active on social media is Sophia. She's got all of that PR and marketing side of her racing career well and truly organised. Green flag is waved. That means everyone dives for the exits of pit lane, and we will be essentially now back to the more regular time, half an hour that they had for free practice this morning. We've only had one lap really, flying lap around the circuit, so qualifying starts now.
It does, although they've still got to get a lap or two to get the tyres up to temperature. So out they all go, and now the battle comes as to who is going to be at the front of the queue and who is going to try and find clear track space. 23 there, Nikola Solov diving to the inside to try to clear the traffic. You do wonder why the teams want to get the cars out in a group like this, because you know it's going to get busy at the top of the Guia Circuit. Just look at that.
Just wait a little while.
And that's what Prema has
like
done.
A race.
Yeah, exactly. And yet some motorsport trying to lag back as well. The only beneficiary out of that again is Luke Browning. He's at the head of the queue, so he can push. He's got the clear track space.
And he was the one that had previously put in 2 ultimate fastest laps. Fastest sectors on that last lap. So Luke Browning was one that would have been slightly disappointed, I think, that the red flag had come out.
Yeah, indeed. But he's getting on with the programme now, and in turn edging away from Mari Boyer in number 28, another of the Spanish drivers on the grids for this race. Mari Boyer, who was in FIA F3 this year, had a 3rd and a 6th and a 7th on his way to 17th in the championship. But there you can see number 12, Isaac Hadjar, stuck in traffic. He's got them all around him. So the last few cars down the pit lane, the Prema cars. Max Esterson has also been shepherded out now as well.
This is a great entry, isn't it? Just looking down at how many cars and how many top-class drivers in the world of Formula 3 are here at Macau this weekend. It is such a draw. Over the years, it's something that people have wanted to put on their CV that they've won here at Macau.
The one that we've lost, actually, was always TBC, was from the Rodin Carlin stable. So they've got the returning Dan Tipton, and they've got Zane Maloney returning to Formula 3, but having never raced at Macau. But nobody from this year's F3 campaign. So down towards Malco hairpin. Drivers now just starting to lag back a little bit, get themselves some clear space. Not for the hairpin, but for what comes after it.
I guess there's something to be lost if you are an experienced Formula 3 driver and you come to Macau and don't not necessarily win, but not shine. Then it's kind of almost counterproductive.
Yeah, I mean, let's say Dan Tickton finishes 10th. What do we make of him after that?
Yeah, really bad year. Yeah.
Right, so flying lap started by number 11, Luke Browning, and he comes down towards Mandarin now. Then this demon fast right-hander, and you're still accelerating. There'll be a DRS zone here come the races, of course, where you can use that to overtake, and Luke Browning from one side of the road goes to the other, finds the apex of his boa, gets it through the corner. Every time he rounds that corner, there'll be a little bit more confidence, but there'll also be a bit more grit because there's a little more rubber down.
Who started his career in Ginetta Juniors over in the UK and was impressive there, went on to British F4 from there. He reminds me a little, I'm not sure if it's the driving style or the way that he's gone around his racing or the staircase that he's used, but he reminds me a little of Harry King, who is doing great stuff in Porsches around the world, Porsche Super Cup mainly this year, but they've had the same sort of route, if you like.
Yeah, and neither of them with a massive budget. I mean, the reputation enhancement and the prize money for being the Aston Martin BRDC Autosport Young Driver of the Year award winner, snappy title, it certainly helps Luke Browning to go racing. But when he won the GB3 Championship last year, that came on the back of virtually sitting out 2021.
Yes.
He did one event at Alton Park in GB3 and won there at his home circuit. So you know, it's been tough for him to get the drives, but he's also now been picked up by Williams F1 team. He's on their young driver programme.
And watch Luke Browning now, Sector 3 and Sector 4 purple. So overall best in Sector 3 and 4, with Sector 5 to go.
Oh, very sideways, but just misses the wall.
Got away with that.
That was a save and a half, wasn't it? And that shows the commitment that's being put in. So Luke Browning, absolutely on the ragged edge. He's going to go top. And then, having done the lap time, I suspect we'll head for the nearest laundrette. Over the timing line he goes. Now Luke Browning does a 2 minutes 7.668.
That was some save, wasn't it? That could have been a very, very weekend-altering moment.
Could indeed. The fact that he saved it has just made him feel a little bit more confident in all of this. But yeah, that was quite a drama. Right, now, you're riding on board here with Dan Tickton. Over the line. And where does Dan's first proper flying lap put him? Puts him 5th. Let's just ride with him. Listen to this. No lift at Mandarin.
My goodness.
No lift yet. Now down through the gears. Gabriele Mini, in the meantime, is coming up to the slowest part of the circuit. He's going to the Macau hairpin. And
Mandarin is a corner. It's a proper corner. It's not just a turn. No lift on board with Dan Tickton was something to savour. Whoa.
Absolutely, absolutely. Robin Stanek, absolute best Sector 1. Gabriele Mini, though, who was the quickest driver in free practice this morning, looking good again. He's also bought clear track space. Prema releasing the cars shrewdly. More drama up the escape road now. Goes Uga Chukwu. So he's up the escape road, no damage. He should be able to get going. Gabriele Mini to the timing line. Is this quickest? It is. 2 minutes 7.599, 69 thousandths clear of the rest.
We have really picked the right on-board cameras to have, haven't we? On board with Gabriele Mini.
Keep going. I was just going to say, is he going to lift? No.
No lift.
Fantastic. keep going, Gabriele. Keep going.
Let's see if we'll take it all the way into Lisbon.
Yellow flag waving because of the car of Uga Chukwu at the escape road.
Yeah, but needs through the corner. Really needs through the corner.
But that's a proper single-seater noise, isn't it?
This is
a snarl to the engine, though. Brilliant. Uphill now. Heading towards the Solitude S's. Red flag. Session stop again.
So this is difficult for everyone. When you have the stoppages, they are inevitable. You have to make the most of the chance when you get a clear lap. When you get a lap, you have to put it together, because the chances of putting a groove together of more than one lap after one lap, it's going to be one of those sessions. 25 minutes just over remains, so they've got to make it last, haven't they? That's for Ugo. Ugo's car's not moving, is it?
No, he's trying to get it going. And there's another one off the road as well, which is Tommy Smith. I think he's on the escape road also, so with both of them in an awkward place, the race director doesn't really have a lot of options, does he?
What's Hugo going to do here is, I think the car fired up, didn't it? And it just sort of lurched forward and then decided not to do anything.
It's like it fires, but he can't keep the revs up to engage a gear and get going.
These cars are so technologically advanced. They've got so many electronic systems to go through, and it's much more than just cranking a handle and starting a car these days, isn't it? That's a huge part of it. These are sophisticated machines with DRS, all the skills that they're learning ahead of ultimately their hope, their wish, their dream of making it to Formula One. This is the second step on the ladder, really, isn't it, to Formula One? Hugo's not having good luck here, is he?
No. And at some point, if that car continues to lurch forward much more, he's going to be up against the barrier and he's not going to be able to get back into the session at all.
So Gabriele Mini is top of the times, a 2:07.599. Well done, Hugo.
Now he's got to give it a boot full of welly and spin it round.
You haven't got many tyres though, so I'm not sure he knows what to do.
The officials are saying keep going backwards.
This is good. Yeah, this is good. Under the red flag, that's something that can be done.
So back he goes. Back he goes.
I wonder how easy that is. So you're reversing just on the mirrors, aren't you? Tiny little mirrors, one either side of the cockpit. He's in the right place now.
Stalled
Oh
it.
no!
It's clearly got a far more difficult clutch than you would anticipate. I mean, I know people always used to say about a Formula 3 clutch being like a switch. It was on or off, in or out. But he got it out of the pit lane okay, but clearly it's not a happy car now. I wonder whether there's an issue, and that's what caused him to go off the road.
Not right.
Rather than it just being him out-braking himself, maybe there's something in the electrics that had a spasm.
Is it?
Just.
It's not easy, is it?
No.
It's not a smooth getaway.
Well, he'll head for the pit lane, and the Trident team will have a look at it, as there is number 9 of Gabriele Nini, the fastest driver thus far. So Gabriele doing a very good job from what we have seen, although this session's not really told us anything yet, because we haven't had enough laps offered out of it. But the driver that was 7th in the Formula 3 Championship this year, the FIA Series, with 2 race wins, one of which came in Hungary, so and the other at Monaco. So street circuit, read into that what you will.
Gabriele Mini is quickest, 2:07.599. Luke Browning is second, 2:07.668. Marcus Armstrong, 2:08.5. Charlie Wirtz is fourth. Dennis Hauger is fifth. Isaac Hadjar is sixth. Short call for the drivers down in pit lane once Hugo's car got going. Was there another car as well, wasn't there?
Tommy Smith,
yeah.
But I didn't see that. That must have escaped already, yeah. No. Christian Mansell, the Australian driver, ready to go. 12th in the FIA Championship this year, had a second and a third.
And of course, it being qualifying, the countdown clock stops, and therefore we've got 25 minutes of the session remaining. Sophia Flörsch down in pit lane. That car we thought had a problem before the session got underway, but I think that's been resolved.
Yeah, I mean, the problem now is that they're just wasting time, because every time they start a flying lap, there's another stoppage. So we've had effectively 14 minutes, and we've not really got anything out of it yet. Slippery surface at turn 3, which is where cars were going up the escape road. So did anybody put any liquid down, and that's what caught them out?
For that reason, yeah, I don't know.
We've not seen anybody come in with a mechanical issue.
And we've not seen the marshals dealing with a slippery surface as yet, so no clues there. That's number 2, Roman Stanek.
Who, when he drove in F4, was a bit wild, wasn't he? But then he went into GB3, quicker single-seaters, and calmed down a lot. It was very quick.
The learning process.
Indeed. It's Alex Dunn, who's been very, very good in F4, whether it's been in Italy or Germany or Britain. Raced in the GB3 Championship this year, runner-up. And so the teams have been told to expect things getting underway, or short notice. And down the pit lane has just come the delayed Ugo Chukwu, so everyone's back in the pits, and that possibly now means that we can get them all out of the pits.
I think
again.
I'll have to have a look at that car, because I'm not sure that was Ugo having problems getting the car going. I think it was the car fighting against him, to be perfectly honest. So Isaac Hadjar down in pit lane.
That's right, returning to F3, the French-Algerian racer. There is Ugo Chukwu with a McLaren orange camera mount on top of the car.
Yes.
Session will resume in under a minute's time. Pirelli's technicians having a look. Of course, these cars are on Pirelli rubber. And are now in the European Championship. Teams with laptops. Nobody walks near a car with a toolkit anymore. It's with a computer and a cable.
I know, it's the laptop, isn't it? As soon as it plugs in, we can diagnose what the problem is. And in fairness, that's pretty much what happens with road cars now, isn't it? You take your car in, it's got a problem, they'll tell you what it is without even examining the car. So 15 seconds and we'll get this session back underway. It's 25 minutes and 57 seconds of the session. But they've got all that work to do again to get heat into tyres. And we said they have struggled a little bit during this session to get things into any kind of rhythm, any kind of groove. But now, once again, we've got the car parked because everyone released all at the same time. Everyone wants to get out on track as soon as possible, and then you'll have a huge amount of traffic to deal with.
And now there's a bit more urgency to get out because, as I say, you've lost 14 minutes or so of this session. They got 40 minutes at the start of the day with one interruption, and then this session, which is again 40 minutes but already 2 interruptions. So the clock carries on ticking now that we've got the session back live.
They've got themselves a little bit more spaced out on track than they did on the previous occasion. It did have a tendency to look like the start of a race, didn't it? All of them jockeying for position, going down towards Mandarin. And I tell you what, if we get a chance to go on board again during this session, hear the engines going through Mandarin with no lift, I'll be very happy.
Yeah, that's awesome television, isn't it?
Neither of us will talk, we promise.
Indeed. I think you might get that when we go on to a hot lap very shortly. Right, so Gabriele Mini is the fastest by 69 thousandths of a second from Luke Browning, who's had a pretty impressive first day at Macau school, hasn't he?
Certainly has. It's going to be a learning curve for everyone today. It's in at the deep end when we turn up at Macau for the very first time. Free practice this morning would have been so totally different to any simulation that you do when you actually feel the bumps, when you feel the rises and the falls around the circuit, and you've got real-life barriers and walls either side of you. Well, that's all a bit different to sitting on simulator, isn't it?
Absolutely right, absolutely right. Don't forget, Sebastian Montoya, of course, had already lost from the session with the damage to his car, and he puts himself on the back foot for tomorrow.
Very Armani on top of the times of 2:07.599. That is going to improve over the course of this session for sure. 23:37 remains on the clock as they go around the left-hander at Lisboa, at Donna Maria, up towards the Melco hairpin, and then the run downhill.
So Gabriele Mini is the man to watch, but this is Dan Tickton, and he is building up for a gun lap. So here he comes then, down now towards the end of Black Sands into Fisherman's Bend. He's probably got that traffic just a little bit too close to him, so...
We're going to be with Dan for the whole of this lap, well, so enjoy this one.
But you need to let those cars go. Others are on the money and getting past him. It's all going to be a bit messy. There are too many cars around for it to be a worthwhile lap. It'll be a tie when he goes for it, but it's going to be a bit busy. So now look, he's trying to get the warmth into the rubber and also fall back so that he can buy himself that clear track space. And then Bend onto a flying lap comes double Macau Grand Prix winner Dan Tickton, fires the trigger, now goes over the line.
Over the line he goes. This is the run. Incredibly quick speeds are achieved on the run down towards ultimately the right-hander at Lisboa, because that's the breaking point. Let's listen.
Down to second gear. Nailed the throttle coming out of the corner. A little bit of a lift, check the car before San Francisco. Now the climb up the hill.
Up the hill, and that is quite a hill. When you stand at the bottom, it's quite an incline. You don't really get the full feeling of that on television, but the wall on the left, there's no mistake about that. That wall, those barriers, boy, do they come close to that. Just see that left front wheel, oh so close to the wall on the left-hand side, and then the right wheel close to the barrier on the right-hand side, up through the Solitude S's, up towards Pale, and Faraway Hill will take them to the pinch points at Police and at Moorish. There is no room to relax on this circuit, is there? You are working absolutely flat out. That's Police, into Police, the right-hander. Accelerate down towards Moorish. That's another right-hander.
The noise is reminiscent of all the onboards in John Frankenheimer's Grand Prix movie. It's a fantastic sound these cars make. And now Dan Ticktum threads his way towards the Macau hairpin. Look, he's catching the traffic ahead.
Through the Macau hairpin and well away from the barrier on the exit. That's a good line through the corner. And this is the first flying lap after the resumption, and we've done the whole lap with a double Macau winner. Dan Ticktum, what a joy this is. Through Fisherman's up towards Arben. This is going to be the conclusion of the lap. Dan Ticktum went personal best in sectors 2 and 3. Up towards the timing beam, crosses the line. What's the lap going to be for Dan Ticktum? And it's a 2:08.692.
Which is good, but he will go better. We've had an absolute best out of Mini, an absolute best out of Hauger. This is Gabriele Mini, or Min, as the short code for his name tells you. So here's the Italian driver then, on his way down towards Fisherman. 2 absolute best, this is good.
Charlie Wirtz goes top with a 2:07.353. It was personal best in sectors 2, 3 and 4, and then an overall best in sector 5. Charles Wirtz, he's only 17 years old, isn't he, Charlie Wirtz, and 2:07, and Gabriele Mini goes through with a 2:06.929.
And Dino Beganovic goes second, his teammate. So Beganovic up to second, the margin 3/10 of a second. Marcus Armstrong goes third, it's Wirtz fourth. Browning is fifth, Richard Verschoor is sixth, Oliver Goethe seventh, Zane Maloney eighth, Murray Boyer ninth, 10th, Robin Stanek. So Ticktum's down to 12th.
Just because you're a double winner doesn't mean to say it's all going to go your way.
No.
Some of these drivers are very used to the machinery. Some drivers have been off driving other things. I'm minded of Felix da Costa, Antonio Felix da Costa. A few years ago, came back, he'd been in a DTM car, winning races in DTM for a few years. He hadn't touched a Formula 3 car for a good few years, came back, and ultimately he did win at the end of the weekend.
Robin Stanek improving in Sector 1 with an absolute best. So you see the concrete on one side, the stone wall on the other, and through that Gabriele Mini has threaded number 9, the Prema Run Dallara, and he's done an absolute best in Sector 2. So he's building the lap together nicely. There's another traffic jam here, look, coming up to Police. All of these drivers trying to let the car ahead go. Somebody sooner or later is on a quick lap and he's going to get delayed, and the one that was delayed in all of that was Matthias Zagazzetta.
So at really slow pace, that's the number 6 car of Charlie Wirtz that you're looking at now, and trying to get that clear lap. As you said, David, Roman Stanek did an overall best in Sector 1. Gabriele Mini did an overall best in Sector 2.
Right, but Mini's lap's ruined because of all this slow bicycle race ahead of him, and the same is true of Dino Beganovic, who just came pounding around Donna Maria to be faced with the traffic jam. So now each driver is kind of slow here, let the car ahead go to try and get that clear track space. But the two people that were just on a good lap have both had that compromised.
Yeah, both compromised. That's a great shame, isn't it, as they thread their way very, very slowly through the Macau hairpin. It's actually almost harder to do the Macau hairpin when you're going that slow.
Yeah, you need a bit of oomph in the car to flick it round, don't you?
Flick it round, yeah.
Right, so Gabriele Mini will go again. Dino Beganovic will go again. Into the pit lane has just come Dan Ticktum. 17.5 minutes on the clock. Now the tempo starts to increase once again. Down towards Lisboa goes Nicola Soloff there, number 23. See how busy it is in that grandstand at Lisboa. And you sit there for a day, you're never bored.
It is immense. It is an absolutely immense grandstand. People pack in because it is an overtaking opportunity. It is really the overtaking opportunity of the circuit.
And
the braking zone
as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, who else do we need to be looking at? Roman Stanek had been improving. Luke Browning is in the pits. Dan Ticktum is back in the pit lane as well. Luke Browning for the High-Tech Pulse 18 on the Oaks' team. And you're looking at number 23 of Nikola Solov, who has done 2 personal bests on this lap, down to police now.
So let's see what happens once they get themselves back up to speed. 16.5 minutes of the session. Dennis Hauger has just gone overall best in Sector 3. Surprisingly, Dennis Hauger down in 11th place at the moment, but he's gone personal best Sectors 1 and 2. Overall best in Sector 3. This is going to be one to watch for car number 27, Dennis Hauger.
Yeah, it is another driver making a return to Formula 3. So for the MP Motorsport team, he's going nicely. What about Nikola Solov? It's going to be a decent lap, I think, from Nikola as well, because the Bulgarian driver here has done 3 out of 4 sectors as personal best, but the back of the car a little bit loose. Luke Browning style there, coming off Fisherman's Bend.
It's worth watching Oliver Goethe as well, car number 17. He's gone overall best, so in Sector 3. So a purple in Sector 3.
Solov 5th at the end of the lap. Chased over the line by Christian Mansell.
Dennis Hauger goes second, so it was a good lap to watch. 2:07, 2:11, so from 11th to 2nd for Dennis Hauger.
And the other one you were asking about was Oliver Goethe, and he's yet to complete, but he does so now. Goes 5th fastest, 27.271. The answer was yes, it was a good lap.
That's not bad, is it? Not bad at all.
It's
so
been to the pointy end, isn't it?
Slower in Sectors 1 and 2, but from Sector 3 onwards, very good work, and probably the first time we've really spoken about Oliver Goethe so far today. Sunshine comes out here at Macau. 15 minutes remain.
Ugo Gachukwu is back out again, despite that rather recalcitrant Dallara that he seemed to have. He's back on track.
That's a great word, I can't even pronounce it.
What, track?
Yeah.
And Gabriele Mini remains the gun driver by 0.6 of a second. That's Marcus Armstrong, he's now 5th. 2 minutes 7.269 is his best, slightly slower last time around.
Marcus Armstrong, the number 29 car. Heading down towards the right-hander now, turns into Lisboa. Good line that, and gets past the traffic neatly as well before San Francisco and San Francisco Hill.
Good work from the traffic though, see him coming, get
really
out of the way.
Really good.
Right, so Richard Verschoor up to 2nd, number 1, and has just done, there he is, the absolute best in the first sector. So Richard Verschoor now is the driver to watch. Or is he just backed out of it?
It just has.
Yeah.
A winner here at Macau.
That's right. He saw the traffic ahead and realised it wasn't going to happen, didn't he?
So Gabriele Mini is top of the times at 2:06.410. Only car to go into the 2:06s. It's 2:07.064 for Richard Verschoor, second place. 0.6 behind Gabriele Mini. Dennis Hauger is 3rd. Boganovic is 4th. Armstrong is 5th. And Goethe is 6th.
That's right.
Where's Dan Ticktum?
Pit lane, he had been. He's just left, so he's on an out lap, but he's 18th at the moment.
That will change.
Indubitably it will, yes.
And we have a camera on board of Dan Ticktum, the double winner here at Macau, and has given us a couple of lovely moments of hearing a car not lifting through Lisboa. Glorious.
We've got to say, Gabriele Mini has done a very, very good job today thus far. He was good, if not standout, in the FIA Championship. I think so early on, he was only 7th in it, but very good at the moment.
So we're looking down at the timing screen for personal improvements, and really there are none. Only on the previous lap for Richard Verschoor, who went overall best in Sector 1 and then put in a personal best time of 2:07.064. It's on board with Sophia Flörsch, heading into Lisboa. Back through San Francisco.
Yeah.
Into the sunshine now. First time today we've had proper sunshine.
But she's no quicker in the first sector, so you get an idea of how much effort has had to be put into the car, but it's not yet coming for her in terms of a lap time. Sophia Flörsch in the earliest session was 12th, which was quite a good effort. But at the moment, we've got that sort of mid-session lull, haven't we? With not that many improvements now in lap times nor sectors really being evident.
No, we've just had a screen with no green on it at all, which signifies a personal improvement on a particular sector. We've now got a few more in Sector 2. Dennis Hauger has gone green in Sector 2. Paganovic has gone green. So too is Bashur, Goethe, Leon and Marty as well. So we've got a few improvements with 11.5 minutes, just under. Still on board with Sophia Flörsch, threading the eye of a needle on this part of the circuit. Look how close the barriers are through the right-handers at first of all Police, and then Moorish, then on to Donna Maria. A long left-hander, which will lead ultimately to the no overtaking zone, Melco hairpin.
All of those high-rise looming over the circuit. And the crane, it's another of those, I know it's an overused word, but it is an iconic shot, the image of Melco. Some great photographs from earlier on in the event from last weekend, with one of the photographers, the official event photographer, shooting between a gap in the barrier on the exit. So you've got the cars dropping down the hill, but with the barrier framing the car. Nice. Brilliant shot that Drew Gibson and his guys have done. Right, with 10 minutes to go, Richard Verschoor is pushing hard again. And you get the feeling now that people on the second set of tyres are having scrubbed them, looking for that clear track space, and then they can push. Yeah,
Verschoor just got held up at the Melco hairpin, unfortunately, so that's not going to be brilliant, because he had put in an overall best on Sector 3. We've got a crash, and we need to identify why.
That's Zane Maloney, isn't it? Who is 11th fastest, and he's done the left rear corner, as you can see.
Oh dear.
I think he's probably hit the wall coming out of Lisboa and has limped it this far. Yellow flag. No, it's not Lisboa, it's later in the lap. So yellow flag is out, but that
Police.
Car, yeah, you're right. It's heading up from Moorish. Red flag. Third red flag of the session.
So third red flag, the clock stops, and just under 10 minutes of the session remain. So 9 minutes and 46 to be precise. Back on board with Dan Ticktum on the in-lap, so back down to pit lane, and it is for the 24 car. Confirmation coming on the time screen, the Rodin Carlin car of Zane Maloney. That's a shame.
Yeah, it is. Somebody else stepping back to Formula 3 for this weekend. But here you go again. You can't necessarily guarantee your run plan, because you're at the mercy of somebody else and their mistakes.
Those that are regulars in the cars over the course of the year, historically, certainly in the early stages of the weekend, on Thursday and Friday, are the ones that tend to remain at the top. Maybe those that have been in other machinery during the course of the year might take a little while to, oh yeah, that's how it works.
Well, Dan Ticktum was about to go for a time to be better than 18th, and he can't because of his teammate. Car growling its way uphill, but it's Gabriele Mini, Richard Verschoor, Dennis Hauger from Dino Boganovic, Marcus Armstrong, Oliver Goethe, the top 6, Charlie Wirtz, Noah Leon, Nicola Solov, and then Luke Browning rounding out the top 10. And there, 11th, is the somewhat crippled car. Look at the tyre marks in the background. Zane Maloney just a bit too quickly through Moorish, and the damage is done.
It can catch out the best of them. That's a section from the right-hander at Police, and then on to Moorish is particularly tricky, and it's caught out some of the best over the years.
Is he the first driver from Barbados to race here?
I don't actually know the answer to that, but
is he likely?
It's highly likely, yeah.
So there's the red flag coming out of Fisherman's Bend, and drivers come back to the pit lane. 9 3/4 minutes on the clock. Of course, where Zane Maloney has come to rest means that there isn't a crane, and so you've got to dispatch a flatbed, and then you've got to get the car back. So it'll take a few minutes.
It's going to take a few minutes, yeah, for sure. And then of course, once we have completed this first section of qualifying for the Formula 3 cars, we've still got more action, and it's going to be in different conditions now, because now the sunshine has come out. Macau looks beautiful, doesn't it, when you've got the long shadows, and we can see just out of the commentary box window normal life in Macau, which continues. The lorries and the trucks and the vans and the cars all going about their daily business on day one of the Macau Grand Prix for the 70th Macau Grand Prix. And here on the track, we're in our own little motorsport bubble, aren't we? And that's going to get quite a loud bubble at the end of the day. We've got GT cars coming out for their second visit to the circuit at the end of this afternoon. But for now, it's all about the Formula 3 cars and the Macau Grand Prix. In fact, the 70th Macau Grand Prix and the 40th for Formula 3 cars.
So after 3 seasons of F4, welcome back to the current iteration of Formula 3 with these much more powerful engines and a single-make Formula, of course, now, even though it had gravitated towards Dallara domination for at least 2 decades, if not 3. And Zane Maloney's car attached to the lifting gear. It won't take long to put it on the flatbed, but then that's got to get off circuit as well. The crews that do the recovery operations, very, very well drilled. Not surprisingly, really, because there are lots of cars to recover over the course of a weekend. But there you go. Up it goes. And it just never seems to take as long here as it does anywhere else in the world. No,
it's a very quick operation here. We've got marshals that are on post at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, getting ready for the motorcycles coming out first thing on Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And there are no shortage of marshals coming forward to work at the Macau Grand Prix. It's a pretty prestigious thing to do, and they know what they're doing as well. Very, very well drilled. Short call for the resumption of the session, which is good news. Now Zane's car is on the back of the recovery vehicle. Just under 10 minutes of what has been an interrupted session, isn't it?
Yeah,
3
indeed.
red flags now.
There's number 1, Richard Verschoor. He seems to, the Dutch driver, keep being dealt the bad blow by the red. Every time he gets ready to go for a lap, then either there's traffic ahead of him and or a red flag is waved. But 9 3/4 minutes are still to run of this session.
Now, who are we going to be looking for improvements once we get the cars back out on circuit? Well, for sure, Luke Browning, who is currently down in 10th place at 2:07.668, which compares to Meany's time at 2:06.410. So I reckon Luke Browning's going to do a little bit better. Zane Maloney, we would have also said, would have been going better, but unfortunately that car is on the back of that recovery vehicle, which is currently being reversed.
And as that's about to leave the circuit, then that means hopefully that we can get the cars back on track from this now 3 times stopped session. Lawrence van Heupen, who caused the stoppage this morning, is 24th. Tommy Smith is behind him, having never really got going. And Sebastian Montoya, who triggered the first stoppage, 26th. So very shortly, the time will be given for the resumption of the session.
Alex Dunn down in pit lane, just rub with the eyes. That might be a bit of sweat getting into the eyes. It wouldn't be surprising. It's a fairly humid part of the world here at Macau, and once the sunshine comes out, you notice it even more. It's not surprising, really. We are absolutely surrounded by water here at Macau. We've got the reservoir just behind us here on the in the commentary box on the start-finish line. And we've got the water, of course, that leads to Macau, a place that is vibrant, full of life, and the place just is amazing when you get to night time and the lights of the night.
Just had a note that says that the barriers at turn 3 at Lisboa need repair work. Restart time will be announced as soon as possible.
Now, we've had one car, Sebastian Montoya, go in and pierce the bottom of the tyres. It won't be for the breaking of a ratchet strap. We saw how many went into that operation, and there's quite a lot.
Yeah. So the drivers for the moment have to sit and wait. I just wonder how much they're going to get in 9 3/4 minutes. because they're going to lose, let's say, 2.5 to 3 with an outlap.
Yeah.
Then another 2 minutes and a bit to get the first lap in.
Do you remember the last 10 minutes of Formula 4 qualifying from last Saturday?
Yes.
It was worth the wait.
It was actually, quite right.
It was well worth the wait.
So an outlap, a start-up lap, and then maybe 2 flyers. If nobody goes off in their zealotry, it's going to be quite dramatic.
You can see just how hot the drivers are getting. So it is now, the sunshine has come out. Much more like the normal sort of temperatures we get here at Macau, and it is incredibly testing for drivers. Incredibly warm work.
One of the drivers that's perhaps been surprising in this session thus far is Noah Leon, up to 8th fastest, because he doesn't necessarily step forward as somebody that you would anticipate being up there. The Mexican driver, he's this year's Euro Formula Open champion, which is for older spec Formula 3 machinery, but he's never driven these cars. He's got a good pedigree back home, winning F4 in Mexico and the United States, but 8th fastest for Noah Leon. He's pretty good.
Essential maintenance must be conducted.
So the barriers at turn 3 being repaired, and as soon as we know more about a restart time, then we'll be ready to plan accordingly. Race director likewise, so he will be looking at the monitors, he'll be talking to the marshals and the local officials about what needs doing and how long it might take.
6 minutes past 4 local time here at Macau. We've got daylight until about 5:15, 5:30, when it begins to get a little bit darker, and 6 o'clock is when the whole of Macau is plunged into darkness to night time, and the lights of Macau take over. So it's a completely different place, isn't it? It looks totally different at night time.
Oh, it does. I mean, it comes alive. It's vibrant during the day.
Yes.
In a sense, because of the 6 till 6 regulations, it is a shame that you can't do a night race at Macau, because a touring car night race or a GT night race would be quite extraordinary.
I like the sound of that.
With all the casinos lit up, that would be something.
That would be something. That would be something else. That would be absolutely supreme. It's an amazing place anyway. The only thing it would take away is the fact that once we finish the racing, we can go for nice dinners at so many nice places to eat, so many nice hotels here at Macau. And if you are listening or viewing around the world to our coverage, and you think we go on about it a bit here at Macau, yes, we do, for good reason. It's an amazing place. And if you like your motorsport and you fancy coming along to a 4-day festival of racing, the like of which you would have never seen anywhere else in the world, and the chance of seeing bikes racing and cars racing, single-seaters, touring cars and GT races, why not book a holiday and come over and enjoy this?
It is worth doing. Paul Aron, you've just seen talking to his racing brother Ralph, who himself used to be a race winner in Formula 3. Dennis Hauger, the Norwegian driver, is good to go back out. So is Charlie Wurtz there. The Wurtz design colours on the Yensa Motorsport run car. Charlie Wurtz, son of Alex Wurtz, Grand Prix racer.
Who is here this weekend.
Yep. Mali Boyer, who is 12th fastest at the moment. And you see paying tribute to Delano Van Torf, who was killed at Spa back in the summer. So as soon as possible, we'll get back underway. I'm slightly surprised the barriers have needed doing, because they didn't need doing after Montoya, unless Zane Maloney did tweak them and sort of limped on.
Yes, yeah,
and
that's possible.
Maybe had another, I don't know.
Trying to get back to the pit.
Yeah.
I know we're just wondering.
I can't think of somebody else hitting the barriers. Anyway,
maybe somebody else did clip the barriers, maybe.
We don't have a restart time. There's nobody else with damage. That's why I sort of lean towards Zane Maloney. Complicated steering wheels these days with all the information on the display.
They each come with a handbook these days, don't they, steering wheels, and rightly so.
So that is turn 3.
And no work going on.
That barrier looks all right. So the plot thickens, unless it's the barrier at turn 16 where Zane Maloney, we think, may have clipped them. But that's there and there's no work going on.
So that's where Zane Maloney was. That was at Moorish Corner, and that's where he had the problem. What you were wondering, David, was maybe clip the barrier early on in the lap, and the car wasn't quite right throughout the hill.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm surprised now
Someone else.
So what's going on?
Else. Another reason. Yeah, but they aren't working on the barriers at turn 3 at the moment, so it's,
not only that, there's nobody there. It's not like they're waiting for more tyres or waiting for anything. They're just not there.
No.
Oh well, we await.
But that's all we can do, and that's all the drivers and teams can do at the moment, is to wait for word to come that we can get this session back underway for what is going to be a thrilling just under 10 minutes of resumption, because there's quite a few cars that are, you would think, out of place.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Gabriele Mini, I think, will be pretty content thus far with his day's work, won't he? It's been a very good effort for somebody that is new to the circuit, and Richard Verschoor as the best of our previous winners in the event, second behind him, and then Dennis Hager in third.
This is apparently where they've been repairing barriers, so not down at Lisboa. However, we are waiting for the word that we can get this session back underway, because every view that we've had of every barrier that we've looked at so far has had no one working on them.
Exactly.
So it's if a repair is required at, as it said on the screen, at turn 3, that's not quite right. Maybe on the approach, but no one's working on it at the moment. See how windy it is. That's been a feature of this week here at Macau. Been windy all week.
The other puzzle is that initially it was going to be a restart on a short call.
It was.
And then a couple of minutes later it was going to be barriers need repair and we'll come back to you, but we haven't seen the barriers that need repair.
No.
So certainly something.
The repair has been that good.
Yeah, well, we're going to go live in 2.5 minutes, we are told.
That's good news. At 4:14 local time, it's 4:11 and 30 seconds here in Macau. And we are about to enjoy the final just under 10 minutes of qualifying.
Teams you've just seen getting ready to go. The MP Motorsport squad that runs Dennis Hauger's car, runs Murray Boyer and Marcus Armstrong. And what's particularly nice about the entry this year isn't just that we've got the stars of the FIA Formula 3 Championship. We've touched on it in as much as we've said that there are people returning and people making their debut, but because you've got that real cross-section of drivers, it's kind of going back to the old days of when you'd get some from the British, some from the German, some from the Italian, some from the French Formula 3 Championship,
that's true. And
they'd all go toe-to-toe. You know, this isn't just a blueprint of a championship round, but in Macau, it is a different entry like you would have got
it is.
In those early days of Formula 3.
Totally different. We were talking about Luke Browning earlier on, weren't we, starting in Ginetta Juniors and winning the championship in actual fact. So too did Sophia Flourish. There's quite a few that have started their car racing career. It was a great crossover from karts. Sophia Flourish did half a season and got on the podium as well in Ginetta Juniors. They went back to Germany to pursue single-seater racing from that point onwards. That's a view of a double winner here at Macau, Dan Tixon.
The session will restart in 1 minute.
They'll be told down in pit lane. It's going to be a minute before we get this session back underway, and therefore drivers and teams begin to scramble and get things ready to get back out on circuit for just under 10 minutes. Bumper crowd for the Thursday afternoon of qualifying. This is the first competitive session out on circuit. They see themselves on the big screen, give a wave, and always good to see. There are so many great vantage places around this circuit to enjoy the action, and boy do they enjoy it. Here on a Thursday afternoon, sunshine is out, motor racing, qualifying, Formula 3 cars. What is not to like? Engines firing up down in pit lane, and they'll be given the word any moment now that they could leave pit lane, get out on the circuit, and then they've got just under 10 minutes to do something about putting in the quickest lap of this session. So far, it has been Gabriele Mini. Green flag is waved with Mini at the top of the times on a 2:06.410. Everyone wants to leave the pit lane at the same time. Down pit lane they go, and yeah, a little bit of a queue to get out of pit lane. some of the teams holding back and keeping their cars away from the first clutch of cars that have made it onto the grid. But now the work has to start again to get the heat back into temperature, get the cars a little bit more spaced out than they are already. Otherwise, they're going to complain about traffic and not getting a clear lap.
Yeah.
But they've only got 10 minutes to do this. Oh, and another session tomorrow. But we can't guarantee the weather.
Nope.
We can't guarantee anything about tomorrow.
Can't guarantee they're going to get 9 minutes of uninterrupted running here. Again, you've got people trying to get clear track space. But you saw earlier on that sort of slow bicycle race coming through the Macau hairpins and trying to let the car ahead go. But not everybody is going to have 9 minutes of clear track space. And the clock is ticking. So Zayn Maloney we've lost from the session, Sebastian Montoya we've lost from the session, and 8 minutes and change on the clock. Gabriele Mini is still the fastest after a very impressive run today. Vershaw, Horga, Boganovic, Armstrong, Goethe, Wirtz, Leon, Solov, Browning ran at the top 10. Yeah, Browning is one in particular that I'm looking for an improvement. Down in 10th place is maybe not where we would expect Luke to be after topping times over the course of the first free practice session and topping times during this qualifying session as well. Finished up this morning in second position to Mini, and with Zayn Maloney now out, Carney on repair. His legacy of 2 personal best sectors is going to remain on the board until the end of this session. So pick your favourites. Who do you think is going to get the best of this? It's really hard to call this year. We're going to get improvements from Luke Browning. We're going to get improvements from Dan Ticktum. Those 2 things are, I think, for sure. Yeah, Ticktum on paper should be an improver, but 7 more minutes in which to do it. Depends where he is in the traffic, doesn't it, as to how good a chance he's going to have. So the cars now come, still getting the warm back into the Pirelli rubber down towards Fisherman's. This is Ticktum. And again, look, the traffic is close up the road. He doesn't need anybody getting in the way. So let's see how he fares. He's letting him go, letting the traffic just start to edge away. And then as he comes into our bend, he'll accelerate clear again. But doing that all-important job of getting the heat in the tyres also allows him to just get a bit more distance between the cars in front to set up for a quick lap. This is such a joy, isn't it? Riding on board with a double winner here at Macau. Can't see the corner at all, can you? You can see the buildings, but somewhere there's a gap and you dive into that gap. But when you have to start braking, you've no idea where the corner is. And 4 tenths down on that sector, and just looking at the view from on board, you also see that the sunshine is out because it's affecting the camera view. It's also going to affect the driver as well on the view down into Lisboa. It's all part of the challenge of Macau, isn't it? Bear in mind that when Dan first one here, it was a rather different type of Formula 3 car. I asked him yesterday in the paddock because I've never asked him the question, what did it feel like when you won that race? And he said, I couldn't believe it. I don't think any of us could believe it, really. He just picked up the pieces of what happened in front of him. He saw it all happen in front of him, avoided it, and said, thanks very much indeed, that's my first Macau win. He said it with a giggle as well. I'm not surprised. Not surprised. Ferdinand Hansberg, Sergio Seti Camara off the road ahead of him, 2 corners from home before he came to win it. Right, so Dan Ticktum on this lap, still not really lighting up the timing screen. Luke Browning is, because he's done an absolute best 3rd sector, but it's just worth staying on board with Dan because these shots from the onboard are outstanding, aren't they? They really are. It's absolutely beautiful to watch a double winner. And now we're with Browning, so he's gone overall best in Sector 3, personal best in Sector 1. He needs to do something. He's got to put himself up the order to go into Q2 tomorrow. They've got free practice tomorrow morning as well with Browning. Car number 11. Up towards the line. What's the time going to be for Luke Browning? He was 10 and goes 3rd. So Luke Browning goes 3rd, which is only 3rd for a little while. Dennis Hauger goes 2nd, so therefore Browning is down in 4th place. But that's much more respectable. That's much more where we'd expect Luke Browning to be. Dennis Hauger up to second, 2 minutes 6.664, putting him ahead of Richard Verschoor. This is Sophia Flörsch. Let's ride with her now down towards Mandarin. Still massively committed on the run towards Lisboa. Nicola Solov has been an improver up to 8th last time around. But Luke Browning then now, who is 4th fastest, has done a personal best within the first sector. And he's certainly taken to Macau, isn't he?
Marcus Armstrong is putting in personal best in sector 1 and 2. So is Isaac Hadjar, and Luke Browning on this lap as well has gone personal best in sector 1, green in sector 1, purple in sector 2. So Luke Browning, we're going to watch this one again. Watched on the previous lap. We're going to pick this car up again because it's gone purple in sector 3 as well. This is going to be a great lap for number 11, Luke Browning. 2 more sectors to go out of Moorish.
And he's got nobody around him. I mean, this is the beauty of it, that he's not going to get held up.
So, car number 11, Luke Browning, oh so close to the barrier on the exits of Donna Maria. That's the long left-hander, leads down to the Melco hairpin, beautifully through the Melco hairpin for Luke Browning. Just nibbled up a very, very tight hairpin, like it really wasn't there. Personal best in sector 4. This is going to be a great lap for Luke Browning. He's going to be up towards the line any moment now, and we'll get the time coming through. He is in 4th. Alex Dunn goes top. Alex Dunn goes top with a 2:06.158. Why wasn't I watching Alex Dunn?
Out of nowhere, Alex Dunn is then bettered by Luke Browning, 2 minutes 6.018. Luke Browning is fastest by 1/10 of a second. So it's Browning, Dunn, Meany, Hauger, Hadjar, Armstrong, the top 6. But yeah, Alex Dunn, who's never raced one of these cars before, out of nowhere, briefly the quickest. Second he is at the moment. 2 minutes remain. There's about a lap in it now, maybe 2 for some of them.
And Alex hasn't really featured in our attentions up until now.
There he is, number 14, the silver car. He's backed off. So has Isaac Hadjar. So has Luke Browning. So they've had their shot on that set of tyres. Work done. Now, what about Dan Ticktum in all of this? He improved last time to go, 17th.
It's not even on the first screen, no. So Dan Ticktum not having the best of Q1s today. And very, very impressive that by Alex Dunn to all of a sudden leap to the top of the times, eclipsed only by that super lap by Luke Browning. Both of them, as you said, David, backed off now. So are we looking down the order to see anyone that's likely to do a mighty improvement on this? Maybe Charlie Wirtz. He's gone green in sectors 2 and 3.
Sophia Flörsch, absolute best, sector 1. So you're looking at Charlie Wirtz, and he is worth looking at, but Sophia Flörsch is still pressing on as well. Clock has got just over a minute to go. Right, so Charlie Wirtz presses on. He was down in the first sector, but he's had a good run in sectors 2 and 3. So let's see whether this is going to be a lap that works for him. Here he comes, Alan.
Absolutely recovered from a moment there. There was a wiggle. What's it going to be for Charlie Wirtz? No. So 2 personal bests in sectors 2 and 3, but no improvement, and indeed drops down a little bit. Isaac Hadjar had gone up to 5th place, and no, I'm not sure we're going to see improvements, are we? Well, personals for Marcus Armstrong.
In Charlie's case, if at Wirtz you don't succeed, and he has improved in the first sector of the next lap. Looks, he's gone and done a personal best. Dan Ticktum, in the meantime, 2 personal bests on this lap.
And we're on board with Dan Ticktum. I think you said Sophia Flörsch have gone overall best in sector 1. We've got on board with Sophia Flörsch as well over the course of today. That's great to see, but we're on board with Dan Ticktum, steering his way around with the sunshine up there, and checker flag comes out. So it's this lap for Dan Ticktum.
I think he's going to be the first one to take the flag. We're not quite, there's one ahead of him, but there he is. So Dan Ticktum to the line.
I go 7th.
Okay.
2:06.985 for Dan Ticktum.
Dennis Hauger up to 2nd, 2 minutes 6.135, a 10th shy of Luke Browning. So Browning, Hauger, Dunn, Meany, Hadjar, Armstrong. Now what about Gabriele Meany? Personal, personal, personal. Sectors 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah, that's not bad, is it? So Dan Tixham up to now 8th position. Dennis Hauger has gone up to 2nd position. And Meany is down in 4th position, but with that overall best in Sector 4, personal best in Sectors 1, 2 and 3. Gabriele Meany topped the times in free practice. What's it going to be at the end of this lap? The checker flag is out. This is the last chance for Luke Browning. Bogdanovic goes 2nd, so Dino goes 2nd in car number 8. And what's Meany going to do? We're waiting. Goes top, 2:05.521. So Gabriele Meany tops the times in free practice 1 and also tops the times in qualifying 1.
By 0.4 of a second, nearly half a second, 0.497, and that's quite a margin. So really, really good day for Gabriele Meany, new to Macau, ahead of Luke Browning and then his teammate Dino Bogdanovic in 3rd, Dennis Hauger 4th, and Alex Dunn, amazing effort because he was really struggling early on, but 5th ahead of Isaac Hadjar, Marcus Armstrong 7th, Nikola Sorov 8th, Oliver Goethe 9th, and Dan Tixham in the end was 10th.
What do you make of the previous winners then? 2 for Dan Tixham, he's in 10th. Richard Vature, he's won here at Macau, he's in 11th.
I'd like it to rain now for tomorrow.
That's our grid.
Rain for tomorrow afternoon,
That would be our grid.
So the last few come through, including Alex Dunn, who doesn't improve, and also going over the timing line, Isaac Hadjar, he does improve, stays 6th. So, fascinating session. It's a shame we had all the interruptions, but I think the quick drivers were the quick drivers were the quick drivers, weren't they? They were there or thereabouts all the way through.
It's like what we said about the final 10 minutes of qualifying after a red flag for F4. Last weekend, it's been the same. The final 10 minutes, absolutely brilliant for the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix. Super stuff, that. Enjoyed that.
Definitely. More to come tomorrow. So they get a free practice session at 9:30. And they'll qualify again at 3:05. And it's going to be the old school type of qualifying where we're referencing today's times as much as the times they'll be doing in tomorrow's session and trying to piece a grid together. Fascinating stuff. And number 8, Dino Bogdanovic, that was, we just seen a moment ago up the escape road at Lisboa.
So a thrilling first qualifying session of the weekend for the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix. The welcome return of Formula 3 cars to the Guia Circuit here at Macau. 40 years since Formula 3 became the cars used for the Macau Grand Prix. And what a wonderful, rich history we have of Formula 3 cars racing at Macau. Confirmation, Gabriele Meany, who takes the provisional fastest time in Q1. With a 2:05.521. Luke Browning in 2nd, Dino Bogdanovic in 3rd place, Dennis Hauger in 4th place, Alex Dunn right at the end of the session in 5th place, and completing the top 6, Isaac Hadjar. Marcus Armstrong in 7th place. And as the rest of the field, we take the rundown, we get down to Dan Tixham, who completes the top 10. Confirmation of the remainder of the order, with Richard Vature, winner from 2019, only in 11th place. Zane Maloney crashed out and finished up in 16th place. Ugo Achukwu also had problems with the car. He was in 19th place, and Christian Mansell completed the top 20. That's how qualifying looks after Q1. They've got one more qualifying session to look forward to tomorrow. Local time, that's going to be at 3:05 tomorrow afternoon. And we are going to get the opportunity to look back at the highlights of that 40-minute session for Q1 here at Macau for the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix.